What we're going to be doing this morning is we're going to be looking at some file management and co-authoring within SharePoint. So we've kind of looped these together because it's around about managing your documents and collaborating with other people in the SharePoint environment. I mean, that's what we're all here for. That's what we're in Office 365 for. That's what we're in the cloud for. It is this shift from a competitive environment to a more collaborative environment. So that whole concept of knowledge is power, and I'll keep all the knowledge to myself. Nah, that's kind of old school thinking. Are you back with me?
Sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
Everything was all going. I couldn't hear. Everybody could hear me, apparently. But
yeah, good. We could hear you having a minor disagreement with your headset at that point. Fortunately, you didn't use too many expletives on the conference call, which is golden. It's kind of the consummate professional. So, Trev, I'm just chatting about co-authoring and collaborating in the SharePoint environment. So, guys, when we think about SharePoint, I want you to think about the client side for SharePoint is Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote. So if you think about the Office 365 stack, the client side for your Exchange is obviously your Outlook client, the client side for your Skype for Business. So what's running on your desktop when I'm referencing client side is obviously your Skype for Business client. But if you're making any content within Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or OneNote, that content should be stored on SharePoint. I mean, here's a question. What are you making content for at work if you're not going to share it with other people?
Exactly.
What kind of content are you making? Okay.
I think a lot of people get the point where we talk about co-authoring and those sort of things. It's sort of like for me initially, I was like, why would I want to do that? How is that ever going to happen? And so forth. But lately, I probably where we're seeing it happening is so much as Excel spreadsheets, especially for the accountants out there, Word documents for proposals. It makes it get that document done quickly, rather than here's a copy of the document I just did. I'll make a few changes. You can jump in right there and then and make those changes together. So exactly. It just is that process. And then when you start to get to OneNote, it means you've got one copy of the OneNote rather than having, everybody's got their own notes and then we finish off and go, well, we want to merge them all together. Start off with one copy of OneNote, one page, and then you were working on the same thing. So there's so many things now. But initially, you think, why would I ever want to do that?
Why would I want to do that? And it goes back to that concept that we sometimes talk about, which is, spot or single point of truth. And if we've got emails going backwards and forwards with multiple different versions in the email, it's very hard to track what is the definitive version of the document. So let's have a quick look, okay? So we're going to start out with co-authoring, and then we're going to look into SharePoint a bit more, okay? So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote all have some form of co-authoring. Now, why we call this the nuances of co-authoring, because they can behave slightly differently, and changes are being made to this system all the time. So improvements and incremental changes are being made to Office 365, which is what we term an evergreen service. Evergreen meaning it's constantly evolving, constantly being updated. There's no period where we have a winter, so to speak, where there's going to be no changes for 6 months. No, there changes constantly. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you would have seen that I posted last week May's edition of all the changes in Office 365, okay? So there are some design differences, and because of this, we need to look at when we collaborate, how we're going to collaborate differently, but work together still, okay? So my top tip is make sure you're running the latest version of Office. So I would recommend running Office 2016, okay? And when we got to open a document, there's no special co-authoring commands or modes. When we got to open a document, if somebody else has that document or PowerPoint or content open, it will say to us in the top right-hand corner, somebody else is editing the content that you're working on, okay? So updates are, again, handled differently. In some cases, you may have to refresh for updates. So, for example, OneNote and Excel, when you've got them online, the updates happen immediately, okay? But with Word and PowerPoint, when synchronizations happen, then the updates are shown. So we can author or this content together, but they're going to work slightly differently. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to SharePoint, and I'm going to demo this for you, okay? And in this case, I'm going to co-author in a full desktop version of Word. You see here with Word, I can do the desktop version or the online or the web apps-based version, okay? So if I'm going to go through and just present my desktop here, what I'm going to present is, I'm actually going to present the document library that we use for these sessions. So it's called the You Don't Know What You Don't Know document library. In there, I've got EMS abstract for security series. So if I click on that document, it's going to open in a view mode. At the top here, I can choose to edit, and I can edit it in Word, or I can edit it in Word or online. So if I edit this in Word, okay, it'll now open Word for me, and alright, and up here in the top right hand corner I can see it says 2 people are currently editing it, okay, and currently we've got Ben and Roland editing this document. So there are other people who can access this document, and it's shared with multiple people, but we can choose to share it with other people or choose to edit this document. So currently on the screen I can see Ben is busy editing the last paragraph of that document as it's been synchronized with the version of this document in Office 365. Remember guys, there's going to be no Save tab here. Up in the top left hand corner I've only got the Synchronization tab. So one of the things in SharePoint, people click on File and they want to save as, okay, they can just say save, and it says, oh, if I say when you save this document it will be updated including changes made by other authors. So what's going to happen now is the changes from Ben are going to come through. So, Trev, does that make sense? And we can see there we've made some changes at the bottom.
And you can open it. So one of the things I've always thought was you could only do this in the online version, but now you can do it on the in any version. So, and that saving is it's saving as we're going, but we're synchronizing. It's not saving, which is an interesting.
Interesting concept, yeah. And you know what that leads to? That leads to discussion around versioning control. Because, I mean, who wins now? Ben and myself are both editing this document. Whose changes are going to win? And that's really based on the timestamp. So if Ben saves his document or closes his document after I save mine, based on the timestamp, his will be the latest version of the document.
Right, so but if you've made changes to paragraph 2, for example, those changes will only apply to paragraph 2. His changes will still stay on paragraph 5.
They will stay on paragraph 5, and we can merge these changes together. Okay. So what should really happen is, as I close it, he should be updated with my changes.
Yeah.
Right. And then when he saves it, it should be updated with his changes.
Right.
So we shouldn't have to go back to the previous version.
It's saving it anyway.
Sorry.
When you're closing, it's saving automatically.
Exactly. So when I'm closing this, it's going through and it'll be saving that document. Now when I go back and view here, what I should be seeing on this page is the updated version with any changes that Ben's made.
Now, when you've got the options there, edit online or edit in the full-blown version.
Yes.
So, as we said, I've always thought you could only do this using the online version of it. When would you use... Then there's no need to use the online version, or is there a time?
You know, the reason for a lot of the web apps-based tools are people who just want to use a browser or who have a device that doesn't have the capabilities to install full-blown Office.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say, for example, you were at the Sydney Exhibition Centre and you were going to do a presentation on the future of accounting, and the guys presented you with an Android tablet as the presentation tool. Okay, so you went to SharePoint, you got here, and as you're about to present, you notice, oh my goodness, there's a typo in slide 3.
Yeah.
So what this is going to allow you to do is, on the Android tablet that doesn't currently have a version of Office or may not even have the capabilities to install a version of Office, it allows you to do a quick and easy edit of the document. Will you have all the functions available in the full-blown version of PowerPoint? No. And that's particularly true when it comes to things like Excel. There's things that we can't do in Excel Online that we can do in Excel, the full-blown version of Excel.
Right. Yeah.
So, and that leads us to, the next...
So for Word documents, I've always said, just for quick changes, don't worry about opening the full-blown version, but you're sort of like saying, it's sort of indicating it doesn't really matter now because of the synchronization and that functionality that's available there. It doesn't really matter which one you want to open up.
It doesn't really matter which one you want to open up for small, easy edits. If you said to me, I'm going to open an Excel spreadsheet and we're going to be working on H lookups and V lookup formulas for the next hours, that's full-blown Excel, man. You're not gonna have a pleasant experience trying to do that in a browser-based version. Some of that functionality doesn't exist. Now, the goal, Microsoft's goal in their roadmap, is to bring a parity of experience between the browser-based version and the full-blown version. Mm-hmm. But you'd have to look at the Office 365 roadmap to see when online components have been updated. They have been updated in the 2016 version, and there are new features in there. But like I said, with the Evergreen service, they're constantly being added to. So, Trev, okay, that's Word.
Hence why you've got to keep on coming along till you don't know what you don't know. Because unless you're monitoring that yourself, Roland's doing all of this for us all the time. It's fantastic.
Well, that's exactly it. And I mean, I'm talking about Excel not being able to edit in the full-blown version. However, I was chatting to some guys last week who've got it working in a full-blown version of Excel. So not just in Excel Online, but they managed to share documents in the full-blown version. So I'm investigating that to see exactly how they managed to do that. Was it because they were on a different tenant or they got a newer update to what we've got? Currently, I'm not able to do that. Okay, but I know people who have got it working, so I've just got to try and figure out why is it working for them and not working for me. And I haven't seen any updates on the fact that it should be working. But let's talk about PowerPoint. Yep.
Oh, the other thing I was just going to say, so that does happen though, where you get different tenant updates. So different tenants, different tenancies. So we could have Hub 1 hasn't been updated, but one of the accounting firms has been updated, for example, to a different version for the online of the products.
That's exactly right. And so currently in Australia, Office 365 was initially released in Australia. It was released firstly we were going to do it out of Singapore, okay? So initially all tenants or all Office 365 people sold in Australia had their data center running out of Singapore. Now we've got the data centers in Sydney and Melbourne. So some people in Australia are in Singapore, some people are in Sydney, some people are in Melbourne. If your parent company that bought Office 365 is in Europe, you could be sitting in the Dublin data center, okay? So where your tenancy is, and that's not the important thing in the cloud as to where your tenancy is, but where your tenancy is going to determine the updates.
Interesting.
Okay. All right. So, guys, what we're going to look at now, Trev, is PowerPoint. So, guys, when we do these presentations, it's Ben, Trevor, and myself, and pretty much every week we go through what we're doing now, which is bring up the PowerPoints online. And I normally edit it in PowerPoint, but that's because I've just used PowerPoint for so long, and I really enjoy using PowerPoint. So, I'm going to fire it up in PowerPoint over here, but it says to me 2 other people are editing this document at this stage. And again, I'm clicking in the top right-hand corner there on the share button, and I can see that both Ben and myself are editing it. Now, what's interesting is from within the context of this document, I could choose to have a chat session with Ben, call him, have a video conference, email, or bring up any details regarding Ben. So what we see here is a very heavy Skype for Business /link integration with PowerPoint. So, yep. Sorry.
And it means that you could be jumping into that document and you go, oh, come, Ben's working on this. Hey, Ben, what are you working on with this document? What page are you doing? Or you could even start a call off in Skype to start discussing what changes you're proposing and that, so that you're working like you're sitting next to somebody with a pen and paper and writing next to someone. It's amazing.
Well, this is it. I mean, when we do these calls each week, I mean, how I normally do is, because we've got a standard Skype meeting set up, we normally join the Skype meeting and then we go to share content. But if I was working on the content, I could go the other way and say, now that I'm sharing the content, I would like to communicate with the person who's also accessing this content and move the other way, and then just start this conversation with Ben, and that's going to open up in Skype on another screen, because I've got multiple
imagine what
screens
this was like before you could do this, especially something like a PowerPoint presentation. And I'm trying to think back, like I remember hearing, where people were saying, can you send me your files, and then you had to merge them together, and, some people would work on their bits, whereas you could say, here's the PowerPoint presentation for this weekend session, add your files in, you're after, maybe I'm talking after you, for example, Roland, and so I just go and add my slides in, and it all matches the same theme, and it works, and it's nice and easy to go through, which is it's pretty cool.
Exactly. So, I can go and I can be editing it here. If Ben was busy editing a slide, we would be able to see where Ben was editing, or if he's made any changes there. Ben's added in a slide down there. I can see it's a new update. All right. So that's fantastic. He's just gone and edited that slide, and I'm going to sync and close down that PowerPoint. So, we've got the last thing we can do is, or not the last thing we can do, but one of the other things we're going to do is then edit documents within Excel, or edit content within Excel. Okay, so when it comes to Excel, okay, co-authoring in Excel is with the online version only. So this is one of the nuances around it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a document, and let us have a look here. But we can co-author, and what will happen when we're co-authoring is we'll all be accessing different parts of the spreadsheet. So there I'm opening up our roadmap for You Don't Know What You Don't Know.
And while that's opening up, Roland, one of the examples that we had last week was an accounting firm that we work with. They do their data collection calls using the spreadsheet, because it's a lot faster than going into each link. And they might have 3 or 4 people doing the data calls, and they can update and work on the document together in real time and see who's worked, so-and-so's already called them. I don't need to call them, move to the next one, blah, 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 and they can work on it in real time together.
Exactly, but now this is in the online version of this document. So as I go to edit this, I can edit in Excel or edit in a browser. So there I'm saying edit this document within a browser, and I can
when you go to open it in Excel, if someone else is editing the document,
yes,
it will block you or say you can't do that one. Yeah.
It will block you. It'll block you out. Now, there are changes on the roadmap for this. Like I said, guys, as soon as we can get the changes working in our environment, I will pass the changes on to you. So we can see Ben's adding in some fields there. I'm not editing that. Ben's actually editing that, and I can click on it and I can see what he's currently doing. So we've got an Office 365 roadmap coming in there. In the window here, guys, who has any suggestions for topics? So we've got this roadmap on the go at the moment. Sorry, I didn't mean to shout at everybody. I had my caps on. In your IM window. So who has any suggestions for topics? Can you put it in the window? And then Ben and myself will go and add it into the spreadsheet. But currently we can see that Ben is editing the spreadsheet at the same time of me. He's currently editing cell B28. So it'll even tell me what cell he's editing. Okay, thank you, Bobby. Somebody else come up with some suggestions. I want to see multiple people typing. Surely there must be something you want to learn. We couldn't have taught you everything already. If so, we're in trouble here, Trev. We're going to run out of sessions soon. Next week we're going to be doing security. So Bobby's got some suggestions in there. Team sites and how to share these with clients. Okay, so I'm going to type that one in. Oh, no, Ben, you got it? Are you moving? I can see you're ahead of me. Okay, Ben was already ahead of me, so he's typing in there team sites and how to share these with clients. Anybody else? Bueller. No. Okay, so that's going to be one of those jokes that's going to determine, that's going to tell you what generation you belong to, because there may be people who don't remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
And we might be able to expand on that, not only team sites, but also, like basically using OneDrive and that, like Dropbox and so forth, where people are using.
Okay, so client-facing sites. So lots about SharePoint, guys. I'm getting a lot of SharePoint stuff in here. All right, I like it. Jody's typing in. That's great. So, guys, even now you can see we're collaborating Windows, attaching files to emails. Jody, we're going to be talking about that next week, because next week is keeping your data safe. So I'm doing, we're talking about data loss prevention, rights management services, and securing your data. So there's two ways we can secure our data. We either got to secure it in station or in transit. In station means when it's sitting on your device or on the server, and in transit means when it's moving between you and I. So I'm going to put that in there, Ben. We'll talk about, I'll go in there and just put in attaching files in there. No, I didn't mean to do that. We'll put attaching files. But yeah, next week we can see we've got keeping your data safe. So that is going to be covering emails. All right. Fantastic. So I'm going to shut that down. I can just go back. It's going to save all of our work. Ben and myself have been co-authoring it. If I click on documents, often I'll click on documents and then I'll actually look at all of the details of the document. So I often look at this view and I would click on modified and see, right, who's been modifying different documents. So there I can see the roadmap was modified a few seconds ago, modified by Trevor. 6 minutes ago, keeping your data safe. 15 minutes ago, the EMS abstract. So to get that view, I clicked on all documents and I get almost like a list view. All right, so jumping back to my slides.
Yeah, on that list view there, Roland, because that's something that it's come up in, especially in the last couple of weeks, is what that Documents tab does. It gives you a different view.
Yep.
For our clients that use the One Practice Document Center, one of the things that you might find is when you click on, go in looking for folders, for example, in the Document Center, if you click on that Documents button, it gives you a better look and feel of the documents and the folders that you're looking for. It also gives you a better breadcrumb. And when we say breadcrumb, it gives you a better trail of where you are, so you don't get as lost as you might be. So that Documents button is, which, we all do. I get a bit lost in Hansel. What was it, breadcrumbs you were saying the other day? It's Hansel and Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel, yeah.
It's laying the little trail, so that we know where we are and we don't get lost and we can find our way back. So that Documents button is very useful. I didn't realize until we did our training session last week how much it really helps with, those things like the breadcrumbs and knowing where you are.
And also it gives you just alternative views to files. You can do a lot of things with views in SharePoint. One of the benefits of SharePoint is the metadata that's available to you. So the data about the data. In other words, when we're looking at what data file was modified, but on who last modified the file, information like that. This metadata can be surfaced or made available to you through different views. So I find that very handy. All right, Trev. Lastly, OneNote. Okay, so OneNote is really designed for co-authoring, and that could be just keeping notes about the meeting. We've done a couple of sections on OneNote, but I want you to think about it as a digital notebook. So just the way that you would have a notebook, that you'd have little different color-coded sections in the notebook, and each section would represent a particular a group of work that you were doing. All right, what we can do here is we can create a notebook, then create sections for different team functions. And OneNote, I can either use it on my desktop or the browser-based version of OneNote. Even like in this meeting, Trevor, if you click on the screen at the bottom of the meeting, we've got an option to share notes. So there's a share notes option, and that share notes option will actually create a OneNote for this meeting, and then it'll say all of the people. So if I say shared notes there, and it'll ask me which notebook I want to create it in, and we'll call this co-authoring, because that's the name of the session we've done here. And it'll go through and create notes for me regarding. So
I can open that up, and I think anybody can open that document up. Yep. We did this before, and I think it might be a really good point so other people can add notes as well about this. So I think one of the topics that we need to have a look at is OneNote, and how to use it, especially like a really useful. I've watched Nick. We've had board meetings, for example, and Nick has brought the agenda already prepared in OneNote. We've then gone through he's put his notes in there. We've attached tasks that everybody has to do. So by adding in the task, and then that task is linked back to our Outlook task manager. I've got that task which tells me I've got to, prepare a sales report for next Friday or something like that I've got to do as a result of that meeting. Exactly. And if you've got client meetings as well, that's where you can also, you put your client notes in there, and you can add that to your SharePoint folder under the client folder, can't you?
Definitely, and our goal here is to try and stop double entry, and just try and be more productive. And I do think so. Hey Ben, can you add a new OneNote podcast for us? I think we're going to do a OneNote podcast, focusing on OneNote and OneNote in SharePoint, just dedicated to it. All right, guys, before we wrap up today, a few things that we've covered before. Using Explorer View. Okay, so again, from a document library, you could choose to view a particular document library using Explorer View. So this is a backwards compatible way of doing it, really. You're saying, okay, I want to make SharePoint look like Windows Explorer used to look. So from here, I'm going to click on Library, and then over on the left-hand side of the screen, I've got Open with Explorer. So I've got Connect to Outlook, I've got Sync, I've got Connect to Office, I've got Export to Excel, I've got Open with Explorer, and what that'll do is open a Windows Explorer window that maps to this particular SharePoint site. So you can actually see that it's mapping to hub1.sharepoint.com, sites, enterprise shared documents, presentations, if you can get that on your resolution. But that looks and feels like Windows Explorer. One caveat here, guys. This is a Microsoft workaround to try and help you journey from your M drive, your L drive, your H drive to SharePoint. So if you use Chrome,
getting a new Safari every time you have a training session with somebody, aren't you, Roland?
I learn every time, Trevor. I learn more stuff every time.
But ours used to be G drive, so there you go. I'll throw that one in as well.
Oh, I've had Z drive, G drives, everything. But this is just the transition thing, guys, to help you on your journey to using SharePoint. Okay, so remember, adding a place again. Go to OneDrive or go to your SharePoint site. In Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, click to add a place, Office 365, SharePoint, or your OneDrive, browse to the server. So it's almost like mapping that network drive inside the Office application. And why are we putting this at the end here? Because if we want to be able to do things like co-authoring documents, they've got to live on SharePoint, baby. If they live on your C drive or something like that, you are never going to be able to co-author.
You're not going to get this functionality.
You're not going to get this functionality. So, people are like, why should I put it on SharePoint? For stuff like this. And, we just want to change the way that you're working to try and make it as productive as possible. So that's it, Trevor. SharePoint and co-authoring and the nuances thereof.
Excellent. Thank you so much again, Roland. It's 11:32.
11:32. So, like I said, next week is about keeping your data safe. We've had a lot of requests around security, so we're going to do a couple of series. We're going to do keeping your data safe, keeping you safe, and keeping your device safe. So look out for those 3 topics coming up. But it's all about security. We've, not us personally, but we've seen a lot of security breaches in the press over the last 60 to 90 days in particular. And what we'd like to do is make sure that our clients don't end up in the press. So we're going to give you a little bit of process around security, because people don't talk about security until something goes wrong.
Exactly. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week, everybody. And we'll see you next week at 11 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Thank you, everybody. It's been an honor talking to you. Have a great day.
Thank you.